Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Brent Cook, the Director of Product Management for Summon, and I appreciate you taking the time today to attend our quarterly update and Q&A session. And as Scott mentioned, I will be covering some items around 360 and Entoto services as well. First, I want to talk a little bit about some of the recent improvements we've done this year. It has been a busy year, including the launch of CDI earlier this year in February. We've had 3 releases so far. In February, as I mentioned, we made the migration to CDI. Hopefully you've seen some improved performance for them since then. We upgraded to Solar 7. We added a few new facets. We added some new ways to sort your result set. We did a lot of match and merge improvements to hopefully reduce duplicates, and you now have the ability to search by ORCID within Summon. In May, as we all moved to the new method of working from home, we simplified things a bit for that release and focused on some linked data improvements, particularly some changes around the way we structure information on the catalog detail page, and some work on some canonical URLs to make it easier for search engines to find and index pages in case your patrons are finding your discovery service through that method, and some integration with WhatsApp. If you want to use WhatsApp as your support tool for chat, it's now easy to go into the admin console and make a configuration there to make that live. Our most recent release was the August release, which included a variety of features that came to us via the new enhancement request system, or NERS voting system, which is your direct contribution to the roadmap every year. Obviously, all of the roadmap pieces do have your contribution to it, and I look at the ID exchange as well as NERS, but that's a way that you can directly impact the release contents. And I'll go over some more details on that in just a moment. And then finally, I'm going to go over some details around the December release this year. Hopefully you saw my note earlier this week about the change. We are needing to shift the November release to December. We expect that to be on December 2nd. And for there to be a preview. I will keep you posted on that, but we are being as cautious as possible as we all work from home and want to make sure that at the end of the year or the end of your semester or quarter, that we make sure that we don't disrupt any workflows and make sure that people can continue to do all the work they need to. And again, I'll go over some more details on all of this in just a moment. First, I want to talk a little bit about what came out in the August release. If you haven't had a chance to go out and check that yet, I just want to remind you that the preview environment is available at all times these days. If for some reason you go and you can't access it for a few moments, just wait a few moments, maybe have a cup of coffee, and by the time you're through, any traffic should be cleared. But the preview environment is available for you to make changes and check them before you put them into the preview environment. This first feature, again, came courtesy of the NERS voting process. Thank you for your participation there. But it's an improvement for Summon Over Alma customers. For the course reserve page, we added the course ID to the course reserve page, making it easier for your patrons to find the specific materials that are associated with that section number or course. We also made some improvement to the peer review labeling on a result. Previously, we did have the open access icon or indicator. Hopefully you can see that on my screen right there just beneath the thumbnail for the result. We've added there as well a peer-reviewed icon. Between both of these, you should be able to quickly glance at the results and see which results are peer-reviewed or open access. You do need to activate this in the back end, and I'll show you how to do that. Something to note is that this peer review works especially well with the peer review facet. There are 2 peer review facets out there. There's the scholarly in peer review, which is a much more limiting facet that requires that both the journal itself be marked as scholarly and the article to be peer reviewed. If you haven't tried the alternate version, which is just peer reviewed, which keys off of the individual article being marked as peer review, I highly suggest turning that on and trying it out in the preview environment, and then maybe migrating that over to your live instance. But it's a really good way for your patrons to quickly facet down 2 peer-reviewed items and see which ones they want. And again, even if they don't use the facet, this icon should make it easier for them to discover that peer-reviewed content, which we know is important. As I mentioned, it's simple to go in and configure this. All you need to do is go into the admin console under settings and search results. It's the first tile there when you do get into the admin console portion of the backend for Summon. You'll find both the open access indicator and peer review indicator controls at the bottom of that box. Simply click the button on the left to make it a custom entry, and then switch it to on. Previously, the open access indicator was elsewhere in the backend management. Now you put them both here on this first tile so that it should be easier for you to find. Simply make your change, scroll down to the bottom of the page, click on save, and within about 5 minutes, you should be able to see this indicator showing up in your instance of 7, whether that's the preview environment or in the production environment. We also made some improvements around books and ebooks, adding the edition and publication and series information to the brief results in the results set. Previously, this was not visible, so sometimes you would have multiple editions of a particular publication showing up in the results sets, making it look like it might be a duplicate. But because we know there are differences between editions and publications, we don't deduplicate that information, and now you can easily at a glance see what the difference is. Hopefully at the bottom of the screen, you can see it under the red circle there, where the year and edition is shown for this particular result. Another improvement we added in August was a consistent link back to the search results. And previously, we had a variety of different ways that you might go back from an alternate page to the search result page. Made it a bit confusing or inconsistent for users. So we're trying to make that more consistent across pages such as advanced search and the save folder. As you can see here, this is the save folder. It's got that return arrow on the right-hand side for back to the results, versus on the advanced search form at the top here, you've got the basic search link that would take you back to the results. Again, different labeling, different positioning, makes it a little confusing for people. So on the right here, you can see we've added back to the results up to the top left-hand corner of all those pages. This is where most users are used to going or looking to see a breadcrumb trail to take them back in their history or their pathway. So this fits within standard internet conventions right now. And again, it's consistent across all 7 pages. Next, I want to talk a little bit about accessibility, and I'll hit on that a couple of times today during our presentation, because it is a critical issue, and it's one we want to make sure we're on top of, especially now that we're all working remotely. A lot of our patrons are accessing information remotely. It's even more important for all content to be accessible via whatever platform you're using, whatever device you're using, whatever operating system or browser. Earlier this year, we did a lot of work to internally assess our compliance for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1. We've completed a review of the user interface, and it recently updated our documentation in VPAT. We've released a new statement that you can go out and see in our accessibility statement directory. The URL is at the top of this slide right here. Don't worry about writing that down or copying it right now. We will make that available as part of the follow-up from this presentation. We'll also make the presentation available, which will have a link in it, so you can easily go and see this Summon Accessibility statement. The statement includes a description of what we do for accessibility. It also calls out the areas where we need to improve. And as with all accessibility issues, anytime any feedback comes in, either through an audit like this or through direct feedback from the end users, we do our best to address it as quickly as we possibly can in the development cycle. Accessibility and usability for a website is always a moving target as browsers update, as various screen reader technology updates, as operating systems change. Accessibility can change based on any of these factors. And so to make sure that everything's usable and available, we do our best to address these things as quickly as possible. In addition, I want to call out that we're currently in the process of engaging a third party to do some additional audits around accessibility, because we know that there's so many variations out there on how you might want to access the site, that it's important to do that sort of deep analysis on a regular basis. So again, we do take accessibility critically. And I should also mention, in an earlier session, someone asked if this information was available outside of a firewall. This is readily available for anyone. You don't have to be logged in order to see this information. You can go do a search on Google or Bing, and you should be able to find a link to the accessibility directory there. Because search engines take a little while for things to update, you may find a link to the 2019 VPAT, not this accessibility statement per se, but you should find a link to the ProQuest accessibility directory, and all this information will be found there. We also made some changes. We also have planned some changes for the position search refinements. It was originally scheduled for the November release, and in this one, we actually were able to get this done and released a little bit earlier. This went live in the September maintenance release, so if you haven't gone out and checked it out, it's a great thing. It allows you to move back and forth between basic and advanced search and maintain any refinements you have along the way. In the past, if you flip back and forth, you'd lose any refinements. Whereas now, as you can see here from the two different forms, if you go into the advanced search form and make it limit to a journal article for a content type, as you can see in that red box on the left-hand side, it will follow you over into the results set, as you can see on the right-hand side there. So again, hopefully that makes it for a more consistent user experience, and it simplifies the management of various constraints or filters that you put on your searches. And something else I want to point out is that it's very easy to create a new search if you'd like. On the advanced form, if you look up at the upper left-hand corner there, there's a clear form button that you can see. That's an easy way to restart the search there. On the result set itself, just to the right of the search box there on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the word new search. Click on that, and that will clear all the filters. Or on the facet pane, click the clear filters at the top, and that will clear it so you have a new search. So users should be able to either maintain the state if they'd like to, or start a new search easily as well. All right, now I'd like to look forward a little bit and talk about the December release. Again, we originally had this scheduled for November. For a variety of reasons, we do need to shift this to December. Currently, we're targeting December 2nd. However, we are aware that for a lot of folks, that's the end of the quarter or the end of the semester. That's a particularly busy time of the year. And so we are being very thoughtful on what we're doing around that time of year. All functionality that I'll describe here in a moment for the December release is configurable, meaning that it won't show up in your production environment until you turn it on. So if you want to maintain the state that you currently have with Summon through the end of the year, you can do so easily. It'll only be if you turn this functionality on that you'll see the changes within Summon. So again, to take a look at our roadmap, this is the final bit that we need to deliver. Pretty much all of this functionality, almost all of this functionality in the December release is related to the new enhancement request system. So again, I know I keep saying it, but I think it's important. Thank you for your input. Continue to go out there to the idea exchange and to the NERS voting process and tell us what you want, because we want to make sure we're meeting your needs. One of the features that you will see as part of the December release is a clarification of author and editor and results and citations. Back when Summon was first built, we combined author and editor so that those were all included in the same line in the brief search results and citations and on the catalog detail page. We will be breaking that out for a better visual treatment so that you can see author and editor separately. There are two components to this feature. There's the actual display piece, which I described. There's also the content piece as well, which is the mapping of the various fields to the appropriate display within the user interface and making sure that we're getting that information from various content providers. That piece will be worked on as well. Because of the size of the index, it's over 4 billion records at this time. That will be an ongoing process, and what's displayed in the user interface will reflect the data that's provided to us from the various content providers. Next, I want to talk a little bit about integration of database A to Z lists within Summon. We're working with the SpringShare API, which a lot of you use to maintain an A to Z list of databases, so that you can easily display results from that list on the user results page or the search results page. The term that your user types into the search box will be passed over via the API to the SpringShare A to Z list, and then we'll return a short list of possible resources from there. There'll also be a link so that you can go into that section if you want to and do a direct search within the A to Z list. With the idea being that we want folks to be able to find whatever content that you have available in the best and easiest way, regardless of whether or not it's indexed within CDI, and this should help improve that. And again, thank you for this. Directly came from the idea exchange. Thanks for the folks who contributed ideas to this. Another item that started off in the idea exchange and moved to the NERS voting system was the idea of using creating a mechanism for harvesting answers from your LibAnswer FAQ for best bets. It's our understanding that a lot of you use your LibAnswer FAQs as best bets. In the past, you would have to go into your FAQs, copy that over, and paste it into best bets, which can be a lengthy process. To simplify that, we'll now use the API to harvest those answers directly and generate keywords based on metadata from your LibAnswers. Finally, some of the functionality we'll be developing and releasing in December is around integration with Sierra. This is the initial phase of this functionality. This will not be visible to you or your end users just yet. It's the first sort of back-end integration piece. We'll be pushing it out to our production environment so that we can begin some testing and validation with a few early adopters with this functionality. It will allow for a better integration of library systems and Summon, and allow for quicker, easier interaction with Sierra. The initial scope that we'll be working on, and this functionality will be delivered throughout 2021, and that includes supporting a single Summon Sierra institution integration, the ability to display availability and embed that in Summon, supporting a login in Summon to Sierra, allowing for requests at a bib or volume level, the integration of library account information in Summon so that your patrons can do actions such as renew and cancel and other ones within the interface. And again, we're going to be beginning the work with early access partners, and at the beginning of 2021, with our first round of functionality being tested in Q1, a second round being tested in Q2, and then making that available for all Summon and Sierra customers in the second half of 2021. Again, it will be a little while before you can actually see this and start to use this information or use this functionality in your instance of Summon, but we think it's important to keep you informed of what's happening there and what to expect moving forward. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about a NERS feature that we're doing that's a little different than how we normally operate, and that is some analysis for how to include SAML, federated, or Shibboleth login options in Summon. And on taking on a project like this, it's a rather large project to tackle, which can make it unwieldy to include in the roadmap. The way to address this is to break it into digestible chunks or manageable pieces, and that's the target of this analysis. We worked with the Summon Working Group and the Enhancement Committee to use this as part of the NERS enhancement system and basically drive to the inclusion of this feature ultimately in Summon. This analysis task will be to take a look at how we can better support current features within Summon using this login option. Right now, Save Searches, for example, is currently supported via Microsoft OneDrive or Google Drive. In order to use that functionality and basically create a flat file and save it for later use so that patrons can return to the site and see past searches that they've saved. They need to have a OneDrive or Google Drive account and log into that to store that flat file. The desire is to eliminate that need for extra logins and also to better comply with some of your IT policies on your campuses that may prevent users from using things like OneDrive or Google Drive. And the desire is to add a SAML-based federated authentication option for this feature and for others. The output of this will be some analysis on and planning on how to tackle this large feature. Those outputs will include that analysis and planning I mentioned, outreach to you, to determine any needs and priorities as is appropriate, and to make a recommendation on the development of this functionality. That will include things like project milestones and phases, and a definition of what we'll actually be able to do once this feature is possible. Timing for the delivery of this functionality will be determined on the inputs from that analysis, and again, we expect that analysis to be done by the end of this year. Next, I want to take a little bit of time to let you know what we've been doing with our 360 and Entota services. As I mentioned, the Summon release is going to be delayed till December. This one's also originally slated for November 4th and 5th, but we want to make it coincide with the summer release, so we will likely push this to December 2nd and 3rd. I will follow up, or Amy Pemble, the product manager for these products, will follow up with official details and confirm what you should expect with regards to timing. For now, let me give you an overview of what you should expect in this Q4 release. There'll be an early release of a new 360 API. We've added some more easily identifiable chat links, and I'll talk in a few places coming forward about chat and what you can expect there. An important security update for WAM proxy URL rewriting, and then a variety of other enhancements. As I mentioned, we're working on a 360 API. The idea here is to give you read-only access to your profile subscribed, what you subscribe to for providers, databases, titles, and the associated metadata with those sources. We're doing testing right now in Q4, and we plan to have, and we will engage some customers once we push this out to production to do some testing around it, with general release planned for the beginning of 2021 for all 360 and Entoda clients. Earlier this year, we introduced chat support for our North American customers. At least the timing is time for folks to be awake during North American hours. We're doing a better job of integrating that now into where you need it as you're doing your work on the back end, both in 360 Core in the Client Center or in Entoda. You'll now find in the navigational bar at the top, in addition to that submit a case link, a way to click on a chat with us link. And I'll talk more about when and how to get access to that chat functionality in just a moment. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the WAM proxy URL rewriting option. The significance of this is that previously the III option under proxy URLs did not support HTTPS or secure linking. The HTTPS option requires that any dots or periods be translated into dashes in order to support this URL proxy. So when this release is completed, if you want to use HTTPS for your linking there, you're going to want to go into your library settings under library URLs and select the new III WAM SSL host replace feature. Some other enhancements include a change to overlap analysis. You can now use database name contains as a search criteria when adding a database to the comparison list. Previously, we only had database begins with, which requires a level of accuracy for finding the database, knowing exactly how that name starts. And now with name contains, it's a little looser and should make it easier for you to find databases to add to your comparison list. We also made it so you can now look at the indication of database selectability without having to change status. You can see now there's a line here on the summary that will tell you exactly whether or not something is selectable. And as a recurring theme for our products, we've been working on counter R5 reporting with a lot of great changes coming out with this release. A couple of new sushi tests, the ability to display code, severity, message, and data information if it's sent by the publisher. The remote server will also now return 403 forbidden messages. We've got a new platform parameter for sushi harvesting. We've made it so that it's automatic duplicate title merging for both manual and sushi. We made some tweaks to the sushi reharvesting queue. And we've also made an adjustment to a warning message that we had. It is now an error message when you have a publisher mismatch. We made some improvements to the platform and DRS administration. You can now go in and see that provider platform ID and easily use that in the client DRS form as well. We also made some improvements to our electronic journal portal, or EJP, and link as well. We, again, are working on some security access things, including updating HTTP links for ORX Web to search to HTTPS for all clients, so you can have that secure connection, We also fixed an issue with database level notes not appearing for ebooks. For link, we fixed a couple of things there. For DOI enrichment, it was incorrectly extracting identifiers from citation elements. That's been addressed. And you can now use a genre from original open URL instead of the one from Crossref. And a variety of other changes we made include a resource manager, fixing an issue with a displayed error when notes were attached to video holdings. We addressed an issue with the renewal checklist not saving. We fixed a tick box where display inboxes were unticked when using a custom status. That's been addressed. For Client Center, we fixed a problem with users getting logged out when a duplicate holding was subscribed. For Toda, we made it so that you can now view over 50 funds in the window when you're adding payments. We now include ebook numbers in overlap analysis summary counts, and we've made it so that you can edit subscription statuses on the holding details pages. That was unable, we were unable to do that in the past. And for all apps, we've made some other changes, including support for a 4-digit year format, so month, date, YYYY, 4-digit year. We've made some improvements around translations. And now, again, to help out with management in the background, it's now easier to invoke full holding updates from eBook Central when you use a database code AABBV or BBABE, are configured in auto holdings, but previously, if one was enabled, there was a conflict there. We resolved that issue. And then finally, I want to let you know about 2 changes we made to Ulrich's Web. As I mentioned earlier, we were doing a lot of accessibility compliance work this year. We've confirmed level A compliance, and we made a variety of updates to subject headings. Next, I want to talk a little bit about our analytics platform. When you go into the Summon Admin console, if you look under usage, it will currently launch the Oracle Business Intelligence, or OBI, platform. Oracle has upgraded their platform. It's now known as the Oracle Analytics Server, or OAS. We do need to migrate to this new platform. Ultimately, it will provide a lot more tools, including things like data visualization. The migration for this is scheduled for November. I sent out some emails on this previously, so hopefully you've seen that. This is not coupled with the quarterly release. In other words, this will continue forward regardless of where, regardless of the December move for the quarterly release. So the freeze date for that is November 15th. What that means is any changes that you make, you can continue to make changes in OBI, but any changes you make after the 15th will not be copied over to the new system. The new system will copy over all of the existing reports in your institutional folder, all of the standard dashboards and reports that we create as part of OBI, and all of the data that's feeding those reports will be available through the new OAS platform. So again, the freeze date is November 15th. The go live date, when this will all be available on the new platform, will be November 22nd. You'll still be able to go in during that week and take a look at things at OBI, but if you make any changes to OBI during that week, they will be lost. One other area that I want to highlight is the ability to save custom reports in my folder. These will not be automatically backed up. So if you look at the little box that just appeared on my screen, what I'm talking about is that top set of folders. If you navigate into OBI, you'll see this folder tree. And anything that's in that My Folders area, here it's the My Dashboard, Webinar 1 and Webinar 2 that the red box is around. Those will not be backed up unless you copy those over to your institution folder. So if you want to retain any of those changes that you made, please make sure you go in and back it up prior to November 15th. We've created a variety of resources to help you do that. I'll take a moment right now to walk through the steps. It's fairly easy, but again, we'll make this available, so don't worry about jotting down notes. We'll make sure that you can easily get these instructions. And here are the steps you need to take to ensure your custom reports are migrated. First, you want to find them. If you've been in OBI previously, you're likely going to start off on this page, but just in case for some reason you're not at this page, to find these folders, click on the catalog link in the upper toolbar there, labeled as Step A on my graphic, and then make sure that the folder tree is exposed, Again, that's identified as step B here on my image. In most cases, you should see that already, but if not, just doing that 1-2 click process should expose your folder tree. Next, you want to create a folder in your institution folder to be able to store and easily retrieve those various reports and folders once the migration is complete. So the first thing you do is select your institution folder. It's named demo in this example. In your instance of Summon, the word demo should be replaced with the name of your institution. For some reason you're missing that folder, please contact support and they can help you add it. But again, we think for most instances you should have that. Next thing you want to do is click on the new icon at the top of the folder tree. That graphic just popped up. You can see it looks like a little page with a star on it. Just click on that. That's going to expose a drop-down menu. Here you can see that on my new graphic that just showed up. The very top option for that drop-down menu has a folder with the word folder next to it. Click on that, and then it will prompt you to name your folder. Simply type in whatever you'd like to name it. Here I've named the folder after myself, and then click OK, and that will create that new folder. Next, you're going to want to copy the reports or folders you have that you want to migrate. Simply go back to your My Folders section. Again, in the graphic here, you can see I just clicked on that My Folder, and it exposed on the right-hand side all of the things that I've created in that My Folder area. If you want to just click copy over one folder or one report, just simply click on the More link underneath the item you want to copy, and then select Copy from the drop-down menu. If you'd like to do more than that, if you'd like to add more than just one at a time, you can click on one thing, like here in my example, click on Webinar Begin With, hold down the Shift key, and click the End item in the list of things that you want to copy. Here it would be my graph example. So I click on Webinar 1, hold down Shift, click on Graph, and that will select all my reports between Webinar 1 and Graph Example. Then just use the copy icon or the copy functionality in the toolbar. You can see that right there at the top. Just click on that, and that will copy all those folders at once. Next, you're going to want to paste your reports or folders into your recently created folder. Simply select the Summon Institution folder, again here labeled Summon Demo. You should see all of your folders listed on the right-hand side. You're going to want to then select the new folder that you created. You can either click in the folder tree on the folder you want. Here it's called Brent's folder, or you can click on the expand link underneath the name on the right-hand side. And then you're going to want to paste the things that you just copied into the using the functionality in the toolbar. It's in the upper part of the screen here, is labeled on my new graphic that just showed up, or on the paste icon that's in the task area on the left-hand side underneath the folder tree. You'll know you've done this successfully when the right-hand side here, which is blank, is suddenly filled with all of the items that you'd like to copy. You can do this as many times as you'd like as you move things over. Once the migration is complete, if you'd like to, you can keep these things in that same folder. Only people from your institution will be able to view it, or if you prefer to store that in your My Folder area, simply do the same thing but in reverse order. Start with the new folder you created and copy it over into the My Folder area. As I mentioned previously, we've created a variety of materials to help you out with this. So if you want more knowledge about this upgrade and how to move these reports, there's a brief 5-minute overview with a demo available on YouTube or WebEx. You can also find instructions in a PDF, and we've posted step-by-step instructions in the Knowledge Center. As you can see from the blue lines and text on my screen here, these are links within the presentation. When we publish the presentation, you can go here and find links if you'd like, and we'll make them readily available. Next, I want to talk a little bit about chat. You can now get direct feedback from our customer support during regular support hours. We added this earlier in the year, and we're trying our best to make it as easy, accessible, and helpful as we possibly can. We've expanded the hours that the chat's available. You can now get live chat support for Summon 360 and Entota services. It's available Monday through Friday during the periods of 900 hours to 1600 hours if you're in Europe, That's CES time or Berlin time. Here in North America, it's available from 900 hours to 1700 hours. That's Pacific Daylight Time. To access this support, it's fairly straightforward to get to. You simply use the embedded Contact Us links located in the 360 Client Center or in TOTA. You can also bookmark the URLs at the bottom of this screen. And again, we'll make sure that these are available so you don't have to write all those down right now. Once you click on the link, you'll see a page similar to the one you see on the right-hand side of the screen here. In the lower right-hand corner, you'll see there's a chat with an agent link right there. Click on that, and that will start the chat. And hopefully a support person will be able to answer your questions immediately and get you going on your way with the information you need. As a reminder, please submit a support case if you have a 360 KB content question or a Central Discovery Index or CDI question. A lot of times those questions require a little bit more of a deep dive or some analysis by our team in the back end. So submitting a support case will make sure that that case is tracked and that you get resolution as quickly as possible. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the 2021 roadmap and the planning we're doing right now. Hard to believe that 2020 is almost over and we're already starting to look at 2021 and what we have in our future. A few things that I want to note is that, as I mentioned, we're planning that right now. Please be sure to contribute to the idea exchange at ideas.xlegalsgroup.com. On a regular basis, I go out and review the items there, and I pull from that to include on the roadmap. In addition to adding any new ideas that you think might be important and voting on existing ones to show that they are important to you, feel free to comment on those as well. The more information or feedback you can give us on what you expect or what you want out of that functionality, the better. The more likely we are to create something that's actually useful to you at the end. So please be sure to go out to the idea exchange and contribute. Also, the Summon Working Group and the Enhancement Subcommittee has been working diligently and putting together a voting ballot for the new enhancement request system, or NERS. That will be coming soon. As soon as you get an announcement about that, please make sure, if you are a member of Igloo and Aluna, to go out and vote for the features you'd like to see in Summon for 2021. We plan to have a similar release schedule as we did in 2020, and that means a quarterly release on the first Wednesday of February, February 3rd, a release on May 12th. That's the 1 month where it's not the first Wednesday of the month. We do that to accommodate Aluna. Traditionally, Aluna in person has been the first week of May. Here's hoping that in 2021, I'll get to come visit you in person and attend that at the beginning of May. But if not, I expect we'll have some virtual Aluna sessions like we did this year. Thanks for everybody who was able to attend and participate. But again, that May release will be on the 12th. August will release on the 4th. November will release on the 3rd. And for each one of these, there will be a 2-week preview environment prior to the release. For all other months, we maintain a maintenance release schedule for the first Wednesday of those months. When needed, not every month do we release a maintenance release, but most times we do. These maintenance releases mainly contain back-end enhancements, a specific customer needs, and other fixes throughout the year, like accessibility, like I mentioned earlier. If there is something that's visible or that might impact your workflow or your patrons, we'll send out notification prior to that. But in most cases, those releases are done quietly each month and are just done to maintain the system. Finally, I want to highlight an upcoming webinar that we have. In addition to these quarterly webinars next year, we've got one coming up in the very near future. On October 29th, we're doing a session about getting the maximum value out of Summon. Recently, we completed the survey where you provided us feedback on your awareness and usage of various features within Summon. Working with the Summon Working Group, we have been putting together a variety of educational sessions, including we're putting together this educational session for October 29th at 8 a.m. San Francisco time, 11 a.m. if you're in New York time, 3 p.m. for London, 4 p.m. for Berlin. Even if you can't make that time to attend this session, I highly encourage you to register for that session. As with this session, we'll send out a link to recordings and other information on on the webinar. So if you want to get that information, please take the time to register. And again, we'll make that link available so it's easy for you to go and get registered for that session. And that brings me to the end of my prepared slides. Well, thanks everyone. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to attend today's webinar. I know we're all working in new situations and scenarios here in the pandemic. Hopefully we've made your life a little bit easier this year. Please take some time to make sure you let me know what else I can do to improve Summon and make the world around us a little bit easier to manage, at least from the standpoint of your discovery layer.